the star of Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher!
Thank you. Thank you for that irony applause. I know why you New Yorkers are happy. The new Zagat survey came out. Do you know what that is? The New Yorkers here, we live by this. It's the restaurant guide. It said that there were over 300 new restaurants opened last year in New York. And interestingly, Melanie Griffith and Antonio Banderas have dry humped in all of them. And we now have 3 five-star crack houses. So we're doing pretty good here in New York. In fact, there was an article in Traveler magazine that says Los Angeles, California, is the least friendly city for tourists, which I took exception to until I remembered, hey, even Hugh Grant had to pay for a companionship out there, so maybe... No, you know who does not have to pay for companionship? Mr. John F. Kennedy, Jr. I guess, well, I know, we all heard this story. There's a book coming out about him that said he had an affair with Madonna, and that at one point he came home and she was there wrapped in plastic, completely, that's all she had on was plastic, which I think is a good start for sex with her, but I wouldn't feel feel completely safe unless she was laminated. I tell you that. Now on to the hard news, or the other hard news. I guess you heard this. This is so distressing that the CIA has been peddling for the last 3 presidential administrations tainted intelligence reports they got from KGB agents and passing it on to the president as if it was true. And Clinton, right away, has called off the invasion of Scotland. He just, it's just... Now, poor Michael Jackson apparently is strapped for cash. They say he is absolutely broke and he needs money. Yeah, apparently bad business deals, because it seems like he doesn't even like it when his investments reach maturity. That's the problem there, and it's very sad, because it is... It is even it's so bad at Neverland. Even Bubbles the chimp now has to eat the generic brand of monkey chow. So anyway, it's all been satirized for your protection. Thank you very much. Welcome to Politically Incorrect. Let's meet our panel. First, he is a bishop of the Episcopal Church and has written 14 books, including Rescuing the Bible from Fundamentalism. Bishop John S. Spong. Hello. Hey, dude. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, she is a noted psychologist, author, radio and television personality. I don't have to tell you about Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
A very funny comedian. He currently hosts the David Brenner Show on the Westwood One Entertainment Radio Network. Philadelphia's favorite son, David Brenner. Hey, man. Thank you. How are you? And the, oh, this is great. God, I love this band. Frontman and lead flautist. Flautist, right?
Or flutist. Either one.
Flutist, I think.
Or flautist.
I think flautist. Flautist sounds dirty, doesn't it?
Yeah, flautist.
He was a flautist. He was with a young boy. For Jethro Tull. Tull! Their CD is Rich Sebastian and Anderson. Tull! Thank you very much for being here. All right. Isn't that something? Yeah. Tull. We got Tull.
That's great. Yeah, great.
You listen to Tull, Joyce?
What?
Tull, you listen?
He's the
Great flautist.
flautist.
Yes,
Flautist.
Jethro
Jethro Tull.
T for the Tillerman, right?
That's the, yeah.
Chief of the Tower.
Yep, Stairway to Heaven, All Along the Watchtower, they were all me.
Please please me? Yes. Well, you've got the genre
If the
right.
money's right.
Listen, here's what I wanted to ask you about. We started this yesterday on the show. We didn't get too far with it, but I wanted to bring it up because people are still thinking, as they should be, about the assassination of the Prime Minister of Israel. And we started to talk about the idea of young people. Now, he was assassinated by someone who was 25, and he was 73. And I think what I've read about him is that only like in the last 3 years of his life did he have a change of heart about the direction of his own country. He was always a warrior. And when he was about 70, he became prime minister again, and he said, no, you know what? The only way we're ever going to be comfortable in this country is if everyone feels at home. And it just made me think that age, which is not respected in this country, as it is in almost every other society, they revere age, should be more than it is. We don't give credit to the connection between growing old and gaining wisdom. Do you think he would have done this guy who was 25, if he was 45?
No, we burn out when we get older. As far as crime is concerned, as we get older, people think we get more crotchety, more difficult. It's not true. We get nicer as we get older, and so most of the crime is done by young people.
Yes.
My grandmother was a bitch. I mean, worse all the time. And I think America will have more respect. No one will respect all people more, I think, if the day comes where a 73-year-old man runs out and shoots a 25-year-old leader. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. We would have a few more records to listen to if they'd waited for John Lennon to hit 70 before they took him out, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think age has anything to do with it.
You don't think age has anything to do with
that's a big
wisdom?
deal. This was a political thing. I mean, the man claims he heard voices from God. If everybody who claims they heard voices from God was speaking the truth, God's phone would be engaged. We'd have to get faxes from God. I mean, this was a political killing.
It was, but don't you think it has something to do with someone being of an age where they don't have that kind of seasoning? I mean, at 25, were you the same person you are today?
Well, I like to think fundamentally I was, yeah.
Really? You don't-
The refinements come, the hair disappears, the trouser expands around the waist, but I think I'm the same guy.
Well, then you're extraordinary.
Thank you.
I don't think...
But you are extraordinary.
I wasn't. At 17, I had all the answers. At 25, I didn't have the questions. I feel that way. I think Charles Manson's a much nicer guy now that he's mellowed out and gotten older.
Wisdom is a lot about what you don't know, isn't that it? I mean, kids, when I was that age, I thought I knew everything when I was 20. When I was 25, I was a little smarter. I didn't think, but you think you know everything, and that's natural. I'm not putting down the kids. I'm putting down the adults who endorse that attitude, who say, you know what, in this age of everything is esteem, which is important, your opinion is as valid as my opinion. Well, you know, my opinion isn't as valid as someone who's 60. I hope that it's not, because that means in the next 20 years, I've got nothing to look forward to. I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to get smarter.
You are going to get smarter. If you start smart, you get smarter with each increasing year. It is the dull normal who shows a big drop-off, or the person who becomes a mental vegetable, who who graduates from school. That's the last challenge they give the mind. That person brings the average down. But for everyone here, you can expect that you will be brighter with each increasing year.
Yeah, but that's the only thing that's good. Everything else is lousy when you get older.
I don't agree with that.
Well, you're smart and you're bright and you got cramps and you're fat and you can't remember things but you're bright. You know.
We have to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. Now, Ian, before we left, you had mentioned the Word of God, which is much in the news because this idiot who shot the Prime Minister said he was taking his orders from the Word of God. And a lot of people say that. David Koresh had the Word of God. Farrakhan, when he said the Million Man March, that came from the Word of God. Not a bad idea, but there are many times it is. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that people hear God?
It's a very arrogant thing, at the very least. When I speak to God, it's called prayer, but when God speaks to me, it might well be paranoia. And I think that I think we ought to look at that.
Bishop Sprung is absolutely right. They have done studies on people who are in the very far out fringe, and 50% of them are schizophrenics. They do hear voices, and some of our great people heard voices as well. Joan of Arc, for example. So it's hard to tell
Look what
whether.
she got for it. But that's kind of the, I mean, to the French she was a hero, to the English she was a heretic and kindling.
Someone said her last words were, "I'm smoking more now, but enjoying it less." I do think the context makes.
You ought to do an evening at the Improv.
Yeah. I do think the context makes a lot of difference. There was an attempt on Adolf Hitler's life, led by a German Lutheran pastor named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and he was hanged for his effort. But the society regarded him as a hero, and Sirhan Sirhan, who killed Bobby Kennedy, he also had voices from God, and this young man that killed Prime Minister Rabin, Rabin. You know, the society will make the judgment as to whether the man is pathological or not. And I think it's interesting to watch that happen. Nobody regards Dietrich Bonhoeffer today. Indeed, he's more powerful in his death than he ever was in his life.
Why don't you ever hear, like, why doesn't God ever say, put everything you have on 23 red? I mean, right? I don't want him to say, go kill, you know.
You've been working in Atlantic City too much, Dave. Has anyone here ever felt that they heard from God?
No.
No?
I got a postcard
I
once,
wouldn't have.
and I could hardly read it. Worse handwriting.
Because he writes in Hebrew.
Right, yeah, right. See, I think it might have been more fun before the Jews, because we had the idea of one God. But the others, they had a lot of gods.
Right.
Someone could tell you to drown someone. You know, one could tell you to change your shoes. Now you got to hear one voice. And it's interesting because you notice that in these small towns, God tells them to kill someone. Like in the Midwest, they always say, well, why not? Well, God told me to kill him. In New York, Guido tells them to kill him. Which is God here in a sense. But yeah.
David Berkowitz said he heard God through a dog.
Who told him, I'll do it.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we were talking about religion because of events in the world, but also because we have Bishop Spong, who is a respected theologian, and Joyce, you are a respected member of the Hollywood Squares. And psychiatrist. Just kidding you know that. But very often psychiatry and religion are pitted against each other. Some people say psychiatry has replaced religion. Is that true? And if psychiatry is effective, why is Woody Allen dating his daughter?
He likes to burp his dates is all.
Burp his dates. Put that in your act.
Freud believed that religion was a neuroses, but from
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
but from that time, religion and psychology have been growing closer and closer together. We come on different roads. In terms of philosophy, me in terms of psychology, but we get to the same point very often, don't you believe?
Well, but a lot of religion is neurotic. And I think we need to face that. A lot of it is really sick. And, you know, we've talked about some of that in the more bizarre cases, but the kind of hostility that surrounds the issues of human sexuality, for example, a great deal of which emanates from the Christian church. Back in the Middle Ages, we taught everybody that that the only place you could get forgiveness was at the church. We had the exclusive market on forgiveness. And once everybody got convinced of that, then we proceeded to make them feel as guilty as possible. The church traffics in guilt. And we did it in all sorts of ways, primarily by uniting sex and guilt. We said to women, there's only one perfect woman, and she's a virgin mother. It's very hard to be a virgin mother. So every other woman was reduced to being a sort of second-class citizen just immediately, and therefore guilt-ridden. We said to men that any sexual desire you have is evil. Well, even Jimmy Carter has sexual lust. He writes about it some years ago, but he still writes about it. And you know, every human being I know has sexual desire, and it's natural, it's God-given. And for the church to put guilt down upon that holy activity, I think is a travesty, and I think it's something that I think psychologists ought to help us get out from under that stuff. So I would welcome the help.
Isn't it always a shame that people look to religion, you know, first of all, many people look to religion as a crutch. It's something they need. They can't get through their daily lives without that feeling. Isn't that same sort of need there for psychiatry, for therapy? Isn't it people always wanting to take something they feel deficient in? They're looking to somebody for something. I mean, shouldn't we always be encouraging people to find within themselves some strength rather than the feeling that they have to go, whether it's on a Sunday morning to church or whether it's to go for therapy, you know, at a certain time on a Wednesday afternoon? Isn't that something we really have to learn to find from within ourselves? That
Well,
strength?
a good therapist, the whole point of therapy is to put the person on their own 2 feet, to let them stand alone. If you make that person dependent upon you, then you're not doing the proper
Isn't
therapy.
that what so often happens? And it's an expensive thing as well.
Very, fortunately.
And also,
You don't put anything into when they pass the...
isn't some guilt...
You caught me out. Okay?
Isn't some guilt good? I think that's the part of religion that we're lacking when therapy takes over. It's
Well,
because
there's
people,
some things for
people
which you
aren't
ought
good
to
enough.
feel guilty. You know, but that's a different thing from having sort of guilt be placed upon some very natural processes of life.
Obviously not for like nocturnal emissions. Well, I was raised Catholic and they made us feel bad for that. And I was like, I'm sinning in my sleep.
Inescapable.
You know, that's a hard one to get by. I mean, I feel bad and I'm not up. I haven't started my day and I've sinned.
Well, I would say that the goal of religion is the same as Dr. Brothers has stated, and that's to call people into the fullness of their life. The word religion doesn't even appear in the Hebrew language. It's not a biblical word at all. Nowhere does Jesus say, I've come to make you religious. And I'm really glad, because I don't like religious people. And that's an occupational hazard in my profession.
Boy, the conventions must be rough for you.
But what I like are whole people and real people. And if I can quote Jesus on this program, he said, I have come that you might have life and that you might have it abundantly. The job of the church, I believe, is to call people into the fullness of their lives and not to try to squelch their humanity as we've so often done under the guise of religion.
I think it's very obvious that I'm a follower of both of these since I've been talking so much about it. I never understood the whole guilt idea. I remember growing up and there were a lot of Italian guys in my neighborhood, and they would say, well, I'd say, well, let's go get a good hoagie, you know, with the meat, with the, you know, and they'd say, well, no, it's Friday, and I'd say, I don't understand something. Now, what's going to happen? I don't understand. Well, it's a sin and we'll go to hell. I said, wait a minute. I don't get it. See, let's say we're in hell. And someone says, what's your name? And the guy says, Adolf Hitler. And why are you here? Well, I killed 13 million people in death camps, and I probably am responsible for another 30 million I killed in war, and that's why I'm here. Oh, and who are you? I'm Genghis Khan. Well, I raped their women, I raped their cows, and that's why I'm here. And what's your name? And I'm Tony Gandisi. I'm from South Philly. What'd you do? I had a burger one Friday, and it's and you know, and the other thing I don't understand, it's like, you know, always have people, you always hear people saying this, you always hear people saying, geez, you know, yes, how's it going? Well, you know, geez, you know, my wife left me, one kid, he's, yeah, I know, he's messing around with a little bit of drugs, another one, I don't know where he is, and business has failed, and I had an examination, I have a tumor, and you know, no, but hey, I found God. You never hear somebody say, hey, the wife is wonderful, the kids are great, business is booming, and I found God. You had to wait for the skids. Why is he always down there in the basement in the dark corner? Why can't someone say, I feel great and I found God?
Right. If there was no misery, we would never call.
Yeah, we wouldn't call him up.
Okay, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, we just have a little time, but Joyce, I cut you off, and I know how painful that can be.
One of the reasons why we have these assassinations is that people have a need to make strangers. One of the needs people have is to have identity, they have a need for security, and they have a need for stimulation. So they join these very strange, far-out religious groups to get a feeling that there is identity, they belong to the group, that there's security, they will be protected by the group, and that there's stimulation. And we make strangers. If there aren't strangers, we make strangers. This is your group, this is my group, and I have the right to do what I wish to your group, including shooting your leaders.
Some would say religion has done more bad than good in the history of mankind. If you count up the Crusades and the David Koreshes and all the people. We once on this show suggested they put a warning label on the Bible.
Yeah, Crusades were a beauty. That was a beauty. Come on, we'll go around the country, we'll kill a lot of people if they don't follow us, and hey, let's go. Sounds like a beautiful thing. Jews would not go to that. I mean, wait a minute, I'm sorry. First of all, they walked. They had mistakes for getting Jews.
All right, we are out of time. I want to thank my guests, Dr. Joyce Brothers, Ian Anderson of Jekyll Hotel, David Brenner, and Bishop John Spong. See you tomorrow. We'll have Frank Rich, Lynn Snowden, Deborah Norville, and Pat Boone. And be sure to tune in all next week when we'll have the winners of the Stir It Up contest right here on our channel. And also, watch Celebrity Jeopardy. I'm not saying how I did, but it was just an honor to be on.